So, bench shooter,
Yes.
long range.
Yes.
Have you ever done any point blank or I don't know if that's a bad word for the 100-yard shooters, honestly. But anyway, the 100-yard shooters. Have you ever done any bench rest 100-yard?
I went to one match, but it was an open match, so you could bring any rifle you want. But I think I finished dead last. It was like these guys, they were loading on the spot. I preloaded everything, and it was just like I wanted to go check it out type thing. I'd never seen it. So, but one match, that was it. I was shooting against rail guns and everything, and I'm just shooting with my regular rifle. And yeah, it was it was fun, but it just, I wasn't competing well at all.
Well, I mean, those guys shoot some tiny groups.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So tell me about 1,000-yard. Is that what you do, 600 and 1,000, or mainly 1,000?
600 and 1,000, mostly 600. I've done a few 1,000-yard matches, but around here there really isn't that much for 1,000, except for at nationals. And down in California they've got some, and over in Montana, but that's quite a drive for me. So I'm usually just shooting 1,000 at nationals, and everything around here is 600 yards.
So you won the nationals. I see two awards back there. When did you win the nationals?
Well, I've won 4 times, 21, 22, and 23 at 600 yards. And then in 23, I also won the 1,000 yards.
Yeah, so 23, you're undisputed benches champion.
Yes. Yeah, I'm grand champion, I guess. So they have, Jeff Locke had won the grand champion the previous 4 years. And Jeff, he's a heck of a shooter, a good friend of mine, and he's helped me out a lot getting started. So to be able to get past Jeff in the grand champion, that was a feather in my hat for me, because Jeff is a heck of a nice guy and an even better competitor. So he helped me a lot when I got started. So it was like, to beat my mentor, it was really good. I don't know if it was so good for him, but it was good for me.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he appreciates the fact. I'm sure you put in a lot of work. I mean, the information. If the information worked for everybody equally, everybody would be winning. I know everybody.
Yes.
The information people can get better, but there's still a lot of work that goes into putting that to practice.
That's exactly it. Practice, testing, and unfortunately for me, to be honest, most of the information I heard at the range or wherever, it just really wasn't helping. And I had to just really, I should go back to the start, because when I started reloading in, I think 2019, I started reloading. And I just was going to the local range, and I met a guy named Ted Larson. And Ted, I don't know how old he's now, maybe 80 something, but he's been top short range bench rest shooter around here for 40 years. And I got to talking with him, and I was struggling because nothing was working, and I was new, and I didn't know anything about anything really. I was just trying to get better. And he was nice enough to invite me to his house and start just talking about neck clearances and all these kind of things. And the first question he asked me is well, what size is your neck in your chamber? I said, it's 272. He says, what's your loaded round? I said, I think it's 269. He goes, well, you've lost already. And I'm just like, well, I don't understand. Everybody else is shooting the same thing. And he says, well, they're not beating me, are they? It's true. Here he is, 80 years old, still winning probably 10 of the 12 matches a year over there. And so I really started listening to what he had to say about neck clearances and all that stuff.
So what did he have to say about neck clearances?
Well, his whole thing is, he's short range, of course, 100 yards and up to 300. So he's not shooting for group. He's only shooting for score. So his whole thing is he wanted to have his case and neck so perfect that he could fire it, not touch it with a die, and just put powder back in it and load it and have it work perfect every time. The spring back of the neck in a case was enough for him to rechamber it. And so you have to get your neck perfect to fit inside there. So it's not too tight so it won't fit, and it's not too loose that it won't hold a bullet. It has to be perfect. And so he would spend agonizing time getting every case perfect, and so I started going down that road. And in short range, which, to be honest with me, I'm not really interested in short range that much. But I was still trying to understand his method and stuff. But once I started shooting 600 and 1,000 yards, I kind of had to ditch it because I got to be able to shoot fast, at least for group. You don't have to, but the people that are winning and scoring and grouping real well, they were all shooting super fast. So when I started learning to shoot fast, I had to get rid of that type of, but I still kept the same mentality of trying to control that neck clearance and trying to get it optimal to where it would shoot really good and not have too much or too little. And so I started going through painstaking testing to figure out exactly how thick to turn the necks to make it shoot perfect for that chamber. And so it's been quite a whirlwind, I guess, of just my own personal knowledge that I've learned, depending on what kind of case you're shooting, to how thick you want that clearance to be, because like Lapua brass is much harder than Peterson brass. So the neck clearance for a cartridge for Lapua is different than Peterson or Alpha or whatever. So depending on what your favorite brass is, you got to turn your neck to be optimal. That's what I've learned. So I think you can probably get any case to work, but you've got to test for yourself to see what that optimal clearance is. And that's only one part, as you know, just the clearance. That's just like any other test, running a neck tension test or seating depth test or all these other tests. That's just one test.
So let's get specific here, just for ease of communication. I assume you shoot like a BRA or dash or something along those lines?
Yeah, I've got a 6 BRA.
Okay, so you shoot a BRA.
And a 284. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I kind of want to ask about the BRA, but then now you said 284. Anyway, let's talk about the BRA.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about both. How about we do that?
Okay.
How much neck clear? Okay, what type of brass are you running?
Well, the last 3 years at Nationals that I've won with, I've shot Peterson brass.
Okay.
But I've been doing testing lately to try to get Lapua brass to work as well. And so it means I need new reamers and stuff like that to change my neck clearance. So I haven't got that far yet, but I'm working towards it.
What kind of clearance are you running with the Peterson brass?
For the Peterson brass in 6 BRA, shooting 600 yards, I'm running about 1,000 clearance.
Wow. That's tight.
Yes. Yes. See, Ted taught me. He brought me over and he just showed me his case, and I don't have one here. But after it was fired, he goes, see, right on the neck, there's a perfect carbon ring sealed all the way around the neck. He said there's no blow by at all. And his whole thing is to have that neck seal perfect in the chamber and have all of your gases, all of your pressure, everything going forward, no blowback, he said all that blowback and everything, that's just throwing things off. You need it to seal perfectly. So that's when I went on my little quest, I guess, of turning necks to all different sizes to see, one, will it seal, and two, which one shoots the best. And so it ended up being very tight. Now I try to do that with the Lapua brass, and in my opinion, it's too hard. So I need to tighten my neck up so I can turn the case wall thinner so it'll soften up the neck. So I think it'll still work, but I just need a different reamer and a different method. So that's kind of what I've been working on with my 284. So I know I can go back to my 6 BRA and do the same thing because everything seems to transfer back and forth pretty well. So it just, it's a work in progress still. I've only been doing this for a couple of years messing with this stuff, but it's been eye-opening really to see. That's what I enjoy the most. I mean, the shooting at the matches is great, but I really love the testing all this stuff and just gathering knowledge. It really keeps me busy and keeps me going. All
right. So now let's talk about the 284. What are you doing with it?
Well, I've been through 3 reamers with that one, and I still would like to get one more reamer. The first ones were I just tried listening to other people, of course, and they all told me what was working for them. And so that was my first stab at it. And the no-turn necks in the 284s, I couldn't get them to shoot. I mean, my friend Jeff Locke was with me the first time I was trying to do a powder test with my first 284, and we're out at 600 yards, and it looked like a shotgun blast all over the paper. It's like I couldn't even tell which shots which went with which group. It was that bad. And he's looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And obviously I'm an okay shooter. I just won 600-yard nationals, but yet this thing, I couldn't get it to shoot. So I was looking at clearances there, and so I made some changes. I ordered another reamer. That one came, and I shot that one last year at nationals just to try it, and it didn't score well at all. And so I guess I learned from my mistakes for the first two and made changes for this last one. And so the 284 reamer I've got now, I made changes to, and the very first match I went to was nationals, and I won. And it was like, whoa, we got something that's actually competing now. So I'm starting to understand cases, necks, reamers, and I'm starting to understand what's making the difference. So hopefully I can take that information and go to like a 308. I could go down to like a 6.5, and I could start changing bullets for different distances and things like that, different wind conditions. I could, that's my goal, is to try to figure out what exactly in a case makes it optimal so it's actually shooting good. Because I see what shoots bad. The trick is to get it to shoot good, and I'm starting to get an understanding, I guess. And so I'm just kind of still got my feet wet with it. So I learned that with the 6BRA, because Alex built me my first rate. Alex Wheeler built me my first bench rifle, my light gun, and so he shoots a 268 neck. And so when I tightened that up, then all of a sudden everything started shooting really well. So I learned with that one. So that's why I went to the same thing with the 284. But I think the 284, I probably could tighten it up a little bit more and get a little better. So that's why I'd like to do another reamer with that. So, but it's all about those neck clearances and the softness of the neck. When you're seating your bullet and you can seat one real easy and the next one's real hard, the next one's real easy, the necks are so inconsistent, and I think if you thin those necks up, then they seat more consistently. But if you got a hard brass like a Lapua and it's too thick, then I think it's too inconsistent. Whereas Peterson, on the other hand, it's much softer, so you got to run it thicker. But then sometimes I think I'm getting overpressured with the Peterson brass in 284. So it's always trying different stuff.
You got to find that balance between hardness, because like Lapua is harder, so it'll last longer, but it's harder. So
it's harder.
The neck is
that's my whole
stiff
game that Ted taught me, is those necks, getting those necks to seal perfectly and get them all consistent. And
so how thin are you turning the 284 at the moment?
At the moment, I'm turning them to the neck itself on either side is, right now, I'm at 13 on either side.
That's where I'm at.
But I would like to go down smaller to get that little softer. And I think that would help. But I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know.
What's your neck diameter on your reamer?
The one I'm shooting now is a 314.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So you don't have a whole lot of clearance there.
No, it's tight, but like I tell people, if you want to know what's best for your reamer and your bullet and all that stuff, it's just turn 5 of them 1,000s, 5 of them 2,000s, 5 of them 3,000s, 4,000s, 5,000s, and go out and shoot them, and you'll see real quick which one. It's almost like a neck tension test or a seating test. You can see really quick. I think it's one of the major things that people skip over.
Well, how many and what kind of test do you do to reveal whether you're going in the right direction or not?
For that particular test, I do 5. I do 5, and I go ahead and I go out, and that's after I've already done a powder test, and I know what my powder note is, and I pick in the middle, so I know the powder's pretty close. And then I turn like 5 cases, 1,000s clearance, 5 cases, 2,000s, 3,000s, 4,000s, 5,000s, 6,000s. So I've got these 30 shots or whatever it is, and I go out and I shoot them, and it doesn't take long, and everything's the same. The neck tension's the same. Everything's the same. The only thing that's different is the clearance in the chamber. And it's always, I can shoot that one time, and you can see this is open, and it gets tighter and tighter, and then starts getting bigger and bigger. It's obvious which one the right one is, especially if you get out to 600 yards. Trying to do this stuff at 100 yards, everything goes through the same hole at 100 yards. I just don't learn anything there. But I get out to 600 yards, all of a sudden everything opens up, and you can see right away. And I usually bring powder vials to the range, and I've got them pre-measured with powder. So if I want to shoot extra more of that one neck clearance, I can do that, But once I've got the clearance done, then I can turn on my cases, and I don't really mess with that test anymore. I learned that right off the bat. That way I don't turn 400 cases wrong. I did that with that 6BRA. Oh my gosh. I think I turned close to 500 cases wrong because I didn't quite have a system figured out to getting the right clearance to begin with. So I just kept turning 100 at a time and then go out and shoot them. And then my brain kicked in, well, dummy, why don't you just do a short test and figure it out first before I turn all these, because every time I'd get another reamer, I'd think, oh, it's probably the same as the last. Well, then I found out, well, no, it's not. So every reamer, every neck clearance, everything, it all ends up being different because you're turning your neck to different thicknesses, so they react different and they shoot different. So I think that's why I've had the best luck. It's just that one main thing. Plus, shoulder angles and things like that in the case, I think, help a little bit too. But I think it's mostly what Ted taught me right off the bat. He gave me the golden information. First day, and I didn't even understand what he was talking about. I was new, It's like I'm a brand new shooter, just trying to figure out how to shoot it better, And he gave me a great piece of advice right off the bat.
I have a piece of brass here somewhere. I can't find it, but Speedy left it for me. We had a live stream, and we discussed that, and the 100-yard benchers guys, they read the ring, the carbon ring on the necks,
Yeah.
But they don't want it perfectly round. They kind of want it like a sine wave.
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for? Or you're looking for perfectly all the way around?
I want perfect all the way around with it.
How far down the neck?
Well, that depends on how. I don't care as long as it's perfectly sealed. And usually it's probably a quarter of the way down sealed because I've got it nice and tight and it expands out quick and seals quick. But if you got too much clearance, in my opinion, I don't want to step on anybody's toes because I talk to all kinds of people out there, and they're great shooters with more awards than me that shoot with the sine wave thing. So I don't want to discount anything. But for me personally, if it's not sealing, it's not shooting that well. It shoots good, but I want to shoot real good. I want it to be the best, So my testing, if it's not sealing, then you've got blow by coming back, which is throwing off your shot right to begin with. But if it's sealing, then it's all pressure's going forward. All energy's going forward. Nothing's coming back. So that's what Ted taught me, and that's what I've strived. And it seems to work because I've gone out right off the bat and just done really well. So, there's an old saying, I guess, if it works, don't fix it. So I just keep doing it.
Because that also changes with powder, though, right? Like depending on the powder type that you have.
Yes.
If you have, for example, you have a fast powder, you might get a perfect seal, but then you change to a slow powder, and all of a sudden it doesn't seal the same. And there's a lot of it affects a lot of different things. What have you found to be the powder, kind of your go-to powder for the 284?
For 284, I'm still brand new at 284, so I haven't tried all of them. But what I won with was 4350.
Yeah, that's all we care about. What did you win with?
That's what I won with. So I've been testing all kinds of powders lately. Just that's what I've been doing lately, and I haven't found anything to beat it yet. But Vitavori 160 is really close. It's like I got to look at that some more. I only shot it once.
Have you tried the triple nickel?
Yeah, I did. I didn't get it to shoot well. I mean, it had lots of velocity. It was faster. It was just like, wow, this thing's really shooting. But I didn't have any accuracy with it. So if I don't have accuracy right off the bat, then I tend to go away. But I could maybe try it some more. But right off the bat, the initial test is I go out usually with 3 different powders, run 3 different ladders, and have 3 rows on my target, all 3 different powders, and I just see which one's the best. And like I said, Vitavori 160 was right there, and that was recommended to me by another guy. So he's right, it's close, but I don't think I was shooting it fast enough. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to retest that one.
What about the BRA? Varget?
No, I shoot 4895.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. When I first started shooting Bart's bullets, I called up Bart and asked him, hey, how do you get these things to work? He said, drive 4895. And
what does that guy know?
He knows everything. He's been winning and winning. He's one of the guys I argue with about the no-turn neck thing. He shoots no-turn, and he wins and wins and wins.
I know.
I can't get it to work, and I don't understand. So yeah, I just think he's a really awesome shooter because, I think a really awesome shooter can overcome some of the deficiencies of the rifle.
He saves all the good bullets for himself, maybe.
Well, maybe that's it. I'm not sure. But even with the Barts, I've won those with 3 years in a row. I've won with the Barts.
Wow.
So the Barts, I was really close this year to switching to the Roy Hunters because all my testing, the Roy Hunters and the Barts were neck and neck. And actually, I went to nationals. I didn't know which ones I wanted to shoot. I still didn't know. It's like the last test I did, it's like it's toss-up. Which one do I go? So I thought, well, I'm going to just do a powder test with both. When I get there, whichever one looks the best, that's what I'm going to use. And I went down there, and Barts were just hammering. I said, I'm going to shoot those again. Yeah. And I'm glad I did because I won. Those things, they're real consistent. They're really, really, I haven't shot the smallest groups, but they're consistent all the way across the board.
Well, what I know about Ventress is you don't win by shooting small groups. You win by not shooting big ones.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I haven't shot small group. Well, I shouldn't say that. The first time at nationals, this time at 1,000, I shot the smallest group. But all my 3 wins at 600, I didn't have the smallest group in any of those. But my overall ag, I was first in group in 600 3 years in a row. So that's why I win. It wasn't my score. I'm terrible at win reading. That's something I'm working on. So I've been shooting some F-class matches trying to get better at reading the wind because that's my weak spot. I can shoot the groups, but
how's that going? So what's it like? Yeah, that's an interesting what is it like for a national champion bencher shooter to go to an F-class match? Because I mean, the gun works.
Yeah, well, up to this point, it hasn't really worked is up to my liking. I think it will now that I've figured out my reamer and everything like that. So I haven't been to F-class match with my good shooting 284. I've been kind of saving it, and I've been waiting for my die that I just got. So I'm going to probably start shooting it here the next couple of months. And if I can get it shooting well, then I'm going to try to maybe go to F-class nationals in November, I hope. I'm not sure. We'll see if I get everything working, if time works and all that. But yeah, it's different because, you get humbled real quick. You're on top of the world over in the bench rest because I've got it that. But then I go to, the F-class matches and I'm just bottom of the barrel getting my butt kicked, So it's starting all over almost. But it's good because, if I don't have something that's driving me crazy, then I get bored, I guess. So when I started bench rest, those guys shooting those small little groups, and I'm shooting these big ones, it drove me crazy until I could get my groups down. Now that I've done that, it's kind of like, well, okay, now what? Well, now I go out and get humbled again at F class. So go shoot against Todd, and you drop 1 point, and you're over, So it's
yeah, Todd's a bully.
Yeah, he's good, really good. But that's what I like. It's like shooting against Jeff Locke. Jeff Locke is, 3-time national champion here, and that's who I was shooting with in nationals. And then I come here, and here's Todd. He's won nationals a couple times in F class. So I go, if you're going to shoot up here in the Northwest and you're going to do well, you're going to have to beat some pretty good competitors.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's what you want, right? You want to be shooting against the best.
Yeah, that's it. So that's why I'm going over to Rattlesnake a few times, trying to learn that wind over there. But the last time I was there, I think I dropped 60 points the first time I was there. That was the last time I did a little better. I think I dropped, I don't know what it was exactly off the top of my head, but about 25 points or something. I mean, I'm not anywhere as close to the top guys that have been doing it a long time. I haven't quite figured out what I'm supposed to be looking at all the time. In bench rest, we have all our flags in our lane and the Mirage. But at F class, all you got these big flags way up high, and it's like, I don't really know if those things are doing you any good way up there, but maybe a little bit. But
most of the time they're not. That's the problem. That's what makes it so tough.
Try to read the Mirage. Yeah. I remember over at Rattlesnake, the last time I was there, I was shot an X, and I looked at the wind, looked at the Mirage, it looked the same. I shot the same spot, and I flew away out to the 7 ring. And it's like, what happened? I thought, well, that must have been a bad load. So I shot another one, the same spot. Where'd it go? Right out to the 7 ring. It's like, I just looking like, what am I missing here? So it's like, I've got a lot to learn as far as wind reading in F class. So
yeah, well, that's the name of the game in F class, right? It's
right.
And it's all about aggregates, right? Like you can shoot 19 amazing shots, but you need to shoot 20.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, over there at Machias shooting against Todd, I think 2 times after 2 targets, I was ahead. But that third target, I dropped 1 point, and it was like,
it's over.
There I go. I'm over. I lost. It's like, I know he's not going to drop a point. I think Jake Christopherson, same thing. I was ahead after 2, and then he beat me on the last one because I dropped 2 shots on that one. It's like, God, why do I keep dropping shots on the last target?
Yeah. Yeah, well, again, F class, that's just how it is. It is again, it's an aggregate thing. You need 60 shots, not 59. Yep. You need all 60.
Yes.
And of course, the last string of the day typically is the toughest one because the Mirage is up, the target's bouncing, the wind is stronger, and I don't know what kind of wind you guys have over there in Machias, but it seems like everybody's always shooting clean.
It's really light. Typically, it's really light over there.
Well, I was going to say it's sometimes those are the tough winds because they're just light enough that they'll throw you into the 9 ring, and if you're not an experienced shooter, if you're if it's kind of fishtailing, it'll 9 ring you to death. It'll just hit that ring that almost a 10, but not quite.
Well, it's been helping going to the F-class matches because my ultimate goal, of course, is to win bench rest nationals. And this year, I shot 2 F-class matches before I went to nationals just to try to improve on my wind reading. And so in the 600, I finished second in score in both light gun and heavy gun. So I was really happy about that because I've never finished that high in score before. So my groups were right there. That's pretty much typical, but my score is always like barely hanging in there. So this time my score did improve. I mean, not improved enough probably to be an F-class champion type shooter, but good enough to, my groups are always holding me in, but I got to bring that score up. So you might as well work on what you don't do as well, and hopefully you can get better at it. So that's what I've been trying to do there. And the 1,000-yard, I finished number 1 in group again, and then in light gun I finished second in score. So I was happy about that. Now heavy gun I was I think fifth and sixth. I think fifth in group and sixth. But I was lucky to win that one. I was Richard Jetty. He was ahead after day one. I was doing good in group, but my score wasn't so hot. But day two, I came back and pulled it off. So I was pretty happy about that one. That's the first time I've won 1,000. So, but there's a lot of good shooters. They've been doing it for years, and I'm just getting started. So I'm still learning a lot of this stuff, you know, as far as the learning the ranges and everything. A lot of these ranges, it's the first time I've been there. And you got to try to figure out which flags are telling you the truth and which ones are not. And so that's been a kind of a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is the challenge.
Yes.
All right. So how do you develop a load?
How do I develop a load? Boy, that's a long question there.
It's all right. We got time. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, the first thing I've got to do is usually use an educated guess on how to turn some cases, so I can go out and just get the barrel shooting and get a powder load for it. And so I'm usually start real low, and I work my way up through the nodes, and I usually find 3 nodes up to peak, and peak to me is when I get a heavy bolt lift. Because in bench rest, you can't have any kind of a bolt interference if you're going to shoot fast. If it's hard lifting, it just messes you up. You can't get your shots off. So it's got to be easy, light load that chambers real well. So that's the first thing I'm doing, is finding my powder node, figuring out where that is. After that, I'll go out and I'll do my neck tension or neck clearance test to see where exactly this particular reamer likes, you know, the brass to be turned. Then I turn on my brass and I go fire form it all. And then after that, I start working with neck tension, you know, different whatever you call bushings in your die. Figure out exactly how much neck tension that it likes. And then after that, I'm working on seating depth. And the seating depth is usually pretty close. I don't really change it from caliber to caliber like a lot of guys. I don't mess with it. I just like it between 5 and 10 thousandths into the lens, and I leave it there. And so once I've got everything else done, I maybe start at 12 and work my way back out to 5 and see if there's a sweet spot that it really likes. But I definitely like shooting into the lens. And after that, I'm pretty much done, but I'm really excited about trying your tuner, because I just, all the painstaking things that I go through at nationals to try to get everything set right is, when I go through all of this and I get it shooting right? I've done all my testing, I've got it shooting right, and it usually takes me maybe 150 rounds on a barrel. And it's ready to go to nationals. 150 rounds, it's tuned, it's great. Well, I know that it's only going to last for about 200 rounds, and it's going to go out of tune again. And so going to like F-class nationals, what are you shooting, like 400 rounds? Something like that?
Right.
So it's not going to last through the whole match. And I found the same thing with bench rest nationals. It's got it shooting perfect, awesome groups, everything's good. But after 2 rounds, the throw to roads, you know, and things, it just goes out of tune. You have to go and redo another powder test. And of course, you can't do all that in a big match. You have to have it all done. So this year for nationals, for the first time, I went with 2 guns. One for the 600 and one for the 1,000. So at 600, I shot my 200 rounds there with the first gun. It stayed in tune. I switched to my 284 for the 1,000, and it stayed in tune for the whole thing. And so I killed it by 2 guns, and I could do that in F-class too. Bring 2 guns, one for, 200 rounds, one for the next 200 rounds. But if you had a tuner, I keep thinking about that tuner. If I could just turn that tuner, I could keep shooting the same rifle and stay in tune the whole time. So I've been really kind of curious about messing with which way to turn it, so you make sure you turn it the right way in the middle of a match, you know.
Right. Yeah, and and that all goes back to testing. And
Yeah.
that's what you keep talking about, and you got to test
Yes.
it. People, they often message me and they go, "Well, which way do you move the tuner?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. It has to do with your testing. It's like like asking you, well, should I turn my necks thicker or thinner? You're gonna say, well, I don't know where you're at, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's the thing with a tuner, and it's when people buy my tuners, they come with instructions. So they come with a QR code. You scan the QR code. It goes to the website. There's an installation page, and there's a video on there, and then all the instructions are there. But the point is, that's a instructions on how to tune with a tuner, which is the starting point, which is shoot at 0, and and then turn. Depending on which tuner you have, either 3 or 5 marks. And then, the newest ones, I recommend 5 marks, and shoot another group, and so on and so forth, right? And through tuning and testing, you're going to find out which way your gun needs to shoot, right? Now, most of the time, for the majority of the people, once they find a node, going to the middle and leaving it alone is the best thing they can do. I don't recommend that you go moving it around if you don't have to,
Right.
But because that requires a lot of tuning and a lot of testing, and there's a lot there. And John Myers told me how he did it, and I'm using that information, but I'm not 100% sold yet. I got to test it for myself, and I've been testing it, and it's just one of those things that it's tough, but through just like everything else, through testing and in your gun, you'll figure out which way you need to turn it. And once you figure it out, it's you can keep it.
Once I got my 200 rounds and I see it's opening up, I can start messing with it and see which way I need to go.
So you talk this 200 round mark.
Mm-hmm.
What happens after 200 rounds? You have to do another powder test you talk about?
Adjust my seating depth back to where it originally was, because I like leaving everything the same. Everything. I mean, in relation to the lands, I know it's moving. Mm-hmm. I know it's moving it forward, but in relation to the lands, I like leaving it whatever between 5, if it's 7,000, 6,000, 5,000, 8,000, whatever that particular barrel likes. I put it back there because I know after every 100 rounds, the throat erodes probably 2,000s, sometimes 3, depending on how hot you're running. So after 200 rounds, you may be eroded 5, 6,000s. And if I'm only shooting 5 or 6,000s into the rifling, now all of a sudden I'm right there getting ready to get out and start jumping the bullet. And I know through testing that as soon as it goes to the other side, things open up and it's just not shooting as well. So I need to move it forward, and I need to do another powder test, because I don't always have to add powder. But when you've been shooting the same barrel for a while and you've moved it forward enough times, you need to add another tenth of powder in there to get it back right into the tune mark. So that all comes through testing as well. And sometimes I can guess how much more powder to add and be real close, but sometimes it doesn't translate that way. warmer air and different climate and different altitudes and all that stuff. I just got to go out and shoot another test.
Have you tried not moving the bullet, leaving it alone, and see if that?
Have
you tried it?
It doesn't work. Then you're shooting over all the seating depths, right? So if you start at 10,000s in, and after 500 rounds, now you're jumping at 25,000s, you're just shooting over all the seating depths. And I've never had any luck doing that. Not consistent luck. I mean, it might go in and out of tune as it finds a place that it likes. But then, if you've done a seating depth test where you test from, say, 20,000s in to 25,000s out, and you shoot all of those, you'll see with different places where it goes in and out. So it might shoot good for a little while at a certain place, but then it'll go back out again. So I want to keep it where I know it's shooting good, and so that's why I'm always keeping it right there. And for me, 5, 6, 7, 8 thousandths in, if I can leave it there, and a lot of times after day one, I'll adjust the seating depth, a couple thousandths out and not mess with the powder, and it'll keep shooting. But I know after doing that a couple of times, it's going to go out, and I'm going to have to check the powder again to see where it is. And, perfect example of that, my first 6BRA barrel that I got to shoot really well. When I first started, I was shooting 29.5 grains of powder. 29.5 with 48.95, and it was just hammering. I went out with one of the nationals. It was great. Day 2, it wasn't shooting at all, or day 3, I should say, at 1,000. It wasn't shooting good at all. It opened up, and I didn't score that well at 1,000. Well, I came home and I checked my seating depth, and my seating depth over 4 days of shooting, it grew 11 thousandths. And so I was now jumping the bullet instead of jamming it. It wasn't shooting good, so I put it back to where it was, went out and ran another powder test. And now the powder test was, instead of 29.5, it was 29.8 where it came back in. So I know as time goes on, you got to keep adding powder, because you move that bullet forward and it opens the case a little bit more, and you got to add a little more powder to get the same pressure. But everything else is staying the same. Still got the same neck clearance, still got the same neck tension, still have the same seating depth in relation to the lands, but you got to keep adding powder to keep up with it. But I can't never outguess the powder how much it wants. So it always surprises me. It's like, I think, maybe 29.6 would be perfect. No, 28.8. And the next time I do it, it's 29.9, then I'm shooting 30. And you look at the chronograph and it's the same speed. So it's just, as it grows, you have to keep up with it. So that's part of the game, I guess. That's why a lot of the short range guys tune right there at the line. But as long range guys, we can't do that. We got to work the pits and all that stuff.
Yeah, I quit doing all that. I used to do all that, and now I don't. I even made a video called "Chasing the Lance is Stupid." Because,
I watched it. I was laughing because that's exactly what I do. And like I say, I don't want to talk bad about nobody, because obviously you're winning. So why will
and that's the thing, right? But now I do everything with a tuner. Like, I don't even do seating depth test anymore. I do everything with a tuner. So if I'm falling out of tune, I tune it with a tuner, right? So I don't know that I quit. How should I put this? I think I'm just getting to it in a different way, Right. But yeah, like I just grab my my amp. When I start with it takes a while to figure out the first, that a reamer with the first, when I get a new round like this PRCW. Once I figured out the seating depth, on that first one, I did all the seating depth tests and I did all that stuff, and I mean, I did a lot of testing, and that's the tough one. Every time I change to a new cartridge, just starting over, like you're talking about, and once I figured it all out, the following barrels, I just gave it the exact same basic ogive as the previous barrel. And then I went and did my powder test, and I didn't even have to do a full powder test anymore like I did originally. I narrowed that down because I kind of know where I'm going to end up. And, when we're down in South Africa, we ran out of ammo for my PRCW. But Jay Christofferson didn't go. So we had all his ammo, So we shot Jay's ammo through my barrel. And all we did is adjust seating depth and tuner, and that shot great. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that tuner. I think it could make my life a lot easier, because what I do is a lot of work, labor intensive, going to the range and testing every time, to make sure it's perfect before I go, and then maybe in testing when I get there. Yeah. So if I could just put a tuner on there and tune it, that might just make I could worry about my shooting instead of all this load stuff.
Yeah, and I've simplified my loading procedure drastically. And if you talk to Todd, he has as well. It's but again, it's bench rest, F-class, right? They're different, obviously. Yes. And I wouldn't say stop doing what you're doing, because it's obviously working. But But it's just interesting how at least I used to do all that, and then I just ran out of time. I was like, man, I don't have enough time to do all of this. So
I know the feeling. It takes me 2 months to get ready for nationals. By the time you turned all the cases and I fire formed everything, got it all ready, done your testing on your barrels, and prepping all the cases after all that fire forming and shoot them in a second time. And it takes months to get ready. You can't just, load up some virgin brass and go. It doesn't work that way. It takes a long time to get ready. So the nice thing is, if I don't change calibers, which I always do because my brain keeps thinking something's going to be better, but I've got my brass turned for my 6BRA and I've got my brass turned for my 284. So that part is done. So now it's just a matter of tuning new barrels as they come along. So that's another thing in itself is those barrels, how long they last, and what's acceptable for accuracy and all that kind of thing. So I know when I'm shooting out at my local range, like with my 6BRA, if I'm doing a 3-shot test or a 5-shot test out there, on a calm day, if it's not shooting under an inch, something's wrong. And I've had a lot of people say, what, under an inch? I say, yeah, because I know when I get to California and the wind's howling and I'm out shooting there, it's going to open up to 2 inches really quick, just for the wind blowing it around. So at my local range, it better be just shooting lights out. If it's not, then I got to get another barrel on there or another bullet or something, because it's got to be, otherwise you're not going to keep up with those guys. Those guys all the rifles are shooting good, all of them.
Yeah, that's that was Jay and Todd and them. When they had all they had was 600 yards. That was their acid test. If it's not shooting under an inch, something's wrong.
Yes, yeah.
And that's a little bit of a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, because that's tiny. I mean, that is pretty small, but that's what's required to be competitive, not even to win. That's not even a guaranteed win. That's just so you can be competitive.
That's right. To be shooting along with, I keep bringing him up, but Jeff Locke, but he's just a great friend of mine. And when I was at the range, it's all his fault really, because I was just learning to reload, shooting my hunting rifle. And Jeff saw me over there and he said, well, hey, you want to come shoot my rifle? And he had his rifle that he just won nationals with. And I'm like, wow, really? I can shoot it? He goes, yeah, shoot it. And I could not believe how smooth and how easy this little 6BRA was shooting. And I was just like at 300 yards, just putting them in the same hole. And I was like, wow, now this is accuracy. It's like, and it just kind of sucked me right in. And then Jeff helped me. He turned me on to Alex Wheeler and where to buy actions, where to buy stocks, where to buy all that stuff. And so he's been a great help for all of the materials I needed. I don't know. Jeff seems to know everybody in the whole country. I don't know. It's like, oh yeah, have you talked to? Oh yeah, I talked to him last week. And it's like, I just learned about the guy, but no, he knows. He knows everybody. Well, he knows what the guys back east are shooting, what the guys in the south are shooting, and I don't know. I just know what I'm doing, I guess.
Yeah. So well, that's good to be informed. That way you know what you're up against.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So rifle wise, like we never discussed the bullet that you're shooting on the 284. Because I don't know.
Now,
go ahead.
In the 284, I'm shooting the Berger 180 hybrid.
Okay.
And I've been shooting. I tried the Target as well. Mm-hmm. It's close, but not quite as good as the hybrid at this point. So I haven't given up on it yet. But the hybrid seems to. I don't know. It's not like my 6BRA. My 6BRA is consistent, just right in there. Whereas the hybrids are a little bit finicky, So it's but still overall the hybrid's been doing better. The 180 hybrid. So, but I haven't quite given up on all that. I wish somebody would make a 7mm custom bullet. Like we've got all of these custom bullets in 6mm, but nobody's making them in 7mm, which I haven't quite figured that out yet. But
well, now that you won with a 284, maybe they will. That's because everybody else shoots 6mm.
Everybody I've talked to is like, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do that? And I go, well, it just seems like a sweet spot in my brain. You know, the 6 gets blown around just a little too much, and the big magnums kick so hard, I don't know how you can get your shots off consistently, because my game, I show on my website, is building up speed, getting those rounds off consistently, smooth, clean, right on target, as fast as you can. I mean, in my 6mm, I try to get my 5 shots and light gun off in 10 seconds. So that way, you know, when the wind's the way you want it, if you can get your shots off fast and clean and smooth, the chances of the wind moving you in 10 seconds is a lot less than if you've taken 20 or 30 seconds to do the same thing. So that's half the key to my success there, is shooting fast. And with those big magnums, it's got such a big recoil, and trying to get it back on target and everything, the gun's jumping in the rest, and you know, you're getting banged and everything. I can't shoot them that fast. So I thought, you know, that 284 is right in the middle. Yeah, it's going to kick harder than my 6, but maybe I can still control it enough to score well. And I'm still working on that part, but it scored good enough this last time. But I think it can get better. I really do. Just me as a shooter shooting it. So I was talking to Alex Wheeler about it the other day, and he said if I increase the weight of my stock, it'll help control that weight. You know, control the recoil a lot more. But I built my current rifle because they raised the weight limit in NBRSA long range. The light gun now, instead of 17 pounds, is now 22.5 pounds. They raised it because they want to attract F-class shooters. You know, they want to come shoot bench rest too. You know, so all the F-class shooters, you know, their guns are too heavy to come shoot with bench rest, so they raised it up. And so my brain was kicking around. I had this heavy gun stock. I was wondering if I could build that one right at 22 pounds so to handle the 284 recoil a little better, and I could still shoot it in heavy gun as well. And that's what I did, and it worked really well. It worked perfect, so I could shoot it in light gun and a heavy gun, and it shot smallest group. So I thought, well, for first time out, that's pretty good.
Now, how small was that group?
For that range that day was 2.5 inches at 1,000.
Wow,
that's
shots.
Five shots.
So what's a competitive group at 1,000?
And light gun, I always base everything off light gun. My brain I can't never remember the heavy gun.
So
stuff,
light gun is 22 pounds, 22.5 pounds and under, right?
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Mm-hmm. And it's 5-shot groups. And I don't know what the national record. I think it's.
Well, yeah, right, the record is kind of one in a lifetime. But what's
consistent?
If you had a gun that shoots this group size, you say, oh, this gun will be competitive.
You got to be in the 3s.
Okay.
Now in light gun. If you're down in the 2s like I was, you're right there at the top. There was only 2 of us that shot in the 2s. It was me and Jeff, and the bulk of my groups were in the 3s. Okay. So, and that was, number 1 in light gun groups. So it's between 2. If you're over 4, then you can maybe do one group over 4, but you got to have something down in the 2s to average that out.
Yeah, that's my kind of my bar that I have set for my F-class rifles. If they're not shooting in the 3s for 5 shots, I keep working on it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm always trying and testing, and even in testing with that 284 at my local range, I was shooting 3/4 inch 3-shot groups. I shot a bunch of them. I'm like, okay, this thing's hammering. But you know how it is when you get to the match and the wind's blowing and you got all the noise going on and you're trying to get 5 shots off instead of 3 shots. It opens up. So it's got to look really good in practice. Otherwise, it's not going to hold up. I've learned that much. So, but I'm hoping that next year I've got 2 more reamer designs in my head that I want to try, and I'm not going to be able to do them for next year because they take so long to get a reamer now. It's like everybody's ordering reamers. It takes 4, 5, 6 months to get one. So I can only really realistically try one a year in order to have the time to test it all out and get everything set for it. So. But at least I got some stuff that's working now, so now I can kind of branch off. I'm really curious about honestly, I'm really curious about 6.5, because nobody's shooting 6.5 either. And then I'm really curious about just a simple 308, but maybe change it to my liking, neck-wise and all that kind of thing, to get a little heavier bullet out in those big wind days.
You talk about 6.5. I kind of got to thinking the other day, because we're taking a 6.5 PRC and we're necking it up to 7mm. Right?
Yeah.
And now they make like a 156 grain bullet or something. And I thought, man, what if I just shot a 6.5 PRC with those really heavy bullets? What would it be like? But at the same time, I know barrel life would be less, drastically less.
Yeah.
But, the 7 PRCW is, at least for F-class, it's a perfect balance, because the ballistics are amazing. Barrel life is great. And, it doesn't kick the crap out of you, It's
right.
The 300 WSM has it beat ballistically, but you can shoot the PRCW way faster. You can shoot it, barrel life is great, and again, you're not that far behind ballistically than the 300 WSM. Right. And now in the 284, you got the 284 beat by 150 to 200 feet per second. So,
right.
it's a 6.5 would be great, but it wouldn't come close to that PRCW, which is the problem.
Well, I wasn't thinking about it for F-class. I was more for bench rest. And
oh, no, I was thinking about F-class. This is something that I was thinking about for me.
Right. Maybe at mid-range at 600, instead of shooting a 6, if the wind's up a little bit, you could bring out that 6.5 and have a little heavier bullet to hold the wind better for you. That's kind of what I was thinking.
What kind of 6.5 are you thinking?
Well, I haven't really figured that part out. I just think the 6.5 bullet, I'm always thinking of bullets, and then I try to figure out which case is going to be the best. And I probably should have, looked into your, PRC case before now. But I've been holding off. It's the cost, for me anyway, because I know for me to just decide, okay, I've already got the barrels, I've already got the powders, I've already got the bullets. But still, to order the reamer, to get the barrels done, to get everything, all the brand new cases and all of the stuff, it's a couple $1,000 just, to drop and go.
That's if it works at the first go around.
That's right. Took me three with the 284. The first two didn't shoot at all, so that's why it took so long, because the first two reamers I couldn't get them to work, now this last one, and I still think I could improve it again, but I'm going to hold out for this year with what I've got. And maybe next year I'll try the 7 PRC and just kind of keep the 284 as it is. I don't know if I want to spend the money to change it one more time when it's shooting as well as it is, even though I could probably get it to shoot better. But I think
if you're winning with it, I'd probably say leave it alone.
That's kind of it, I'm always wanting to mess with stuff. Even this year at Nationals, I was in a house. We got an Airbnb with Jeff Locke, myself, Jeff Lewis, and Jeff Witt. We all rented a house down there, and here I come back. I'm ahead after day one at the 600, and I'm fussing over my stuff, and I'm thinking about changing this and changing that. And Jeff Locke looks at me and goes, "Why do you want to change anything? You're in first." I don't know. I wasn't liking this and I wasn't liking that. I was thinking about doing this and that. And he goes, "Man, you're crazy. I would leave it alone." And ultimately, I did leave it alone. But Jeff Locke beat me the second day, but my overall ag, I still stayed ahead of him. So it's just always tight, really tight.
Yeah. Those that don't know, you have a YouTube channel. They can go follow you, because you're spilling all the beans over there.
Well, I don't know. For me, I just know when I started, trying to get accurate information wasn't that easy. It seems like there's a lot of guys out there willing to help you, but there's a lot of maybe misinformation or information that seems to be run-of-the-mill stream, and through all my testing, the stuff I already just told you is what works. It's not a bunch of other stuff, you know. I mean, I hear concentricity this and concentricity that, and run out this and run out that, and people going on with all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't even own a concentricity gauge. I've never even used one, you know. And it's just, that's just one example, you know. There's lots of things like that. So I just started a YouTube channel and said, here, do this. And this is what I do. And after that, it becomes the shooter, you know. And so I
what's the name of your channel? Those that want to go find you.
You can look under Bruce Teel 7 and just type that in. It'll come up, and it's Bruce Teel Competition Shooting. And so you can find it that way. I changed the name once because I don't know why. There seems to be a, like everything in life, there's people for whatever reason don't like bench rest shooters compared to F-class shooters. I don't know if you ran into any of that, but my channel name is BT Competition Shooting. But I tried to post a couple things on YouTube, like in the F-class forum, and they wouldn't allow them because it said bench rest on them. I'm like, oh, okay. So I changed the name to Competition Shooting. I mean, I thought, well, we're all shooters, you know. Why does it matter what the name is? But it's, I don't know. I'm learning as I go along. I'm still pretty new to the game, so
yeah.
But they're all rifles to me, and I think I can shoot my rifle in F-class, bench rest, whatever. But they got these forums, you know. So I changed it away from bench rest shooting to competition shooting. Mm-hmm. That way. And I posted a couple now. They seem to like that better, I guess. So, but yeah, I don't know who's in charge of all those things. So
don't look at me.
No, I don't know. I don't know anybody. I just, you know, trying to promote bench rest and shooting in general and help people out and all that kind of stuff. And at this point, I remember how hard it was for me to get information. And now that I've had some success, and I think I kind of have an idea what I'm doing, you know, just to help the general shooter get started, you know, this is what you need to focus on. This right here. If you focus on this, then you're going to get out there and you're going to, I've already had, just since I started my channel in the last couple of months, I've already had 3 guys text me, hey, I just won my first match using your stuff.
Very
and I'm
nice.
Just like, right on. That's just makes me more happy than anything that people can enjoy it, because when you're not winning and you're struggling and you're fighting it, you know, people, you know, it's not as much fun. And if I'm shooting against a guy that's really hard to beat, it makes more fun for me, you know. So it's just the more competition, the more people, the better everybody's doing. And hopefully other people share their knowledge too, because what I know is just limited. This guy's been doing this for 30, 40 years. I've been only at it for a couple of years now in competition. So I know there's more to learn. So you know.
There's a lot to learn. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
That's why I'm talking to you and I'm talking to everybody, because I'm trying to still find those small nuggets of information that could potentially get me an edge. Because as you saw, you know, you've been to F-class matches. They're tough.
Oh yeah.
Any type of competition is tough, right? Because you get the guys that are, you know, the shooters that are at the top of the game, and to beat those, you got to be on top of your game, plus a little bit of luck and hopefully a little bit of you know, something that you figured out that they haven't yet.
Well, everybody's got their own little secrets, and of course I haven't given away all of my secrets, you know, but the only way you're going to really get all of my secrets is if you can actually get my reamer print, which I haven't released those yet.
Can you send that to me right quick?
I have found something in reamers that do make a difference.
Okay, well, we can talk off the air about that. We don't compete against each other anyway. You're bench rest, I'm F-class. It doesn't matter.
I've had several people email me, will you send me your reamer print? Well, no, that's mine.
Yeah.
You know, after I'm done with it, yeah. And
people
after I've moved on to something else.
People don't realize how important a reamer is, you know. You know, like I've been using Alex's reamers. Like I got real smart. I got to the point where I quit having to make my own, and I just using Alex's, you know.
There you go.
And once I started using Alex's prints, man, well, okay, not prints, reamers, because he won't release the print. But I'm like, I don't care.
Release it either.
I don't need to know. I don't need to know what it looks like. Just get me the the reamer, and
I would already have a barrel done by Alex, but I had to order a bolt because I only have a standard bolt. I need a Magnum bolt. Well, I ordered that Magnum bolt 5 months ago. I'm still waiting for that Magnum bolt. So that's one thing that's holding me
what
up
kind of
there.
actions do you use? People are going to want to know. That's right. Let's go through your rifle build right quick.
Well, my first rifle for 6BRA, that's an Alex Wheeler LRB stock. I've got a Bat B action, left load, right eject, Krieger barrels, Bix and Andy trigger, and I shoot competition, Night Force competition scope. So that's pretty much it. And now for F-class, I've got two. I've got a dual purpose gun that I made, and I've got just a straight F-class gun that I bought used. And I really like that one. It's a serious stock, wooden stock, and it's got a Borden action and Krieger barrel and Bix and Andy trigger. And I really like it. I've been shooting it. I bought it used, of course, in the barrel, the original barrel, the reamer that was in there for 284. It just didn't work. I couldn't get it to do anything that I wanted, so I changed to the second reamer on that one, and it got a little better, but not good enough. Now my third reamer, I've only done in my competition bench rest rifle, so I really need to do a new barrel for that one. That's what I was waiting for, that tuner. I'm going to do new barrel and put it on that F-class stock with the tuner and everything, and see if I can get that one working with my new reamer. But my dual purpose gun, I've got two stocks. I've got a Kestrel Macmillan stock, and the actual builder was Lester Bruno. I just bought it off Lester Bruno's site, the Kestrel stock. That one's got a Bat M action, left load, right eject, with Krieger barrel and Bix and Andy trigger. And I use the same competition scope around on all of them. I also have a Vortec Golden Eagle scope, and I use that one in practice mostly. I try to use the Night Force in competition. It's just got really clear glass. I like that one. I probably could use another scope too, so when I go to the range or go to the match, I have two rifles sighted in, ready to go without moving the scope. But I haven't afforded that quite yet, so it's on the bucket list. Another scope. Yeah,
there's always another scope or another rifle, or another barrel.
Yeah,
it's just never ending. But that's part of the fun, right?
Yeah.
Well, Bruce, this has been great, man. I appreciate you being with us.
Right on.
Can I, after this video airs, my forum members on my website are going to see it. Can I have you back to do a live Q&A
sure.
for my forum members?
Sure.
Man,
yeah,
that'd be awesome. Because I'm sure after they see this, they're going to have tons of questions. I'll have them write down the question, then you and I can do a Q&A for the forum members.
Good.
Over on my website, shootsmallgroups.com. You know how to shoot small groups. So
yes, I can do the small groups. I like the group part. That's been my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So I got to work on that score. But
all right, we'll set up a time, and I'll have you over to my website. Like I said, we can do a live Q&A for my forum members and Patreon.
Good. Sounds good.
All right, man.
On.
So I guess that's it. Thank you for being here.
Right on. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
All right. As Speedy would say, keep them small.
Okay, you too.
Later.
Right on. Thank you.